Welcome. This is Peter Winnick. I'm the founder and CEO of Thought Leadership Leverage, and you're joining us on the podcast today, which is Leveraging Thought Leadership. Today, my guest is Kevin Eikenberry. Kevin is a world-renowned leadership expert, a two-time best-selling author, a speaker, a consultant, a coach, a leader, a learner, a husband and father. And as he says in his bio, not necessarily in that order. And let's just dive in. So welcome, Kevin. I feel like this is like the old school Larry King, like long time listener, first time caller for me, because I've been a fan for a long time. So thank you for taking some time to chat with us today.
Well, Peter, I'm glad to, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
So you've been at this game of thought leadership, this business of thought leadership for quite some time. So I thought I would start by just sort of asking a couple of observations that you had around what's changed and what hasn't over the last, 20 plus years that you've been at this.
Well, I don't know that when I started that I could have put those two words. I know the word thought and I know the word leadership, but I don't know what I would have put them together. So, I don't think while the need or the desire to build credibility, influence, et cetera, all the things that we think of as thought leadership existed then, I didn't think about them in that way. Here's what's not changed. Human behavior. Right. The desire and need for people to have people that they say that's my go-to person on that topic or in that area, like that hasn't changed. What has changed is the number of options that we have to build our platform, the number of ways that we can go about doing it, and the complexity that comes with that for us who are trying to build.
But that's good and bad. Stay there for a moment, because that's really good and bad, right? So there were some old school, call them formulas, if you will, that worked fairly well. Write a book every 18 months, be a keynote speaker, check the box. The complexities are also opportunities. Now, for a thought leader to be successful commercially, you have to understand the nuances of social media. You have to understand a wide variety of modalities and formats that your client base might want. So although on the one hand, it's more complex, the other side of it, it's gives you far many more doors that can be opened for folks to access you.
100%. It gives you more doors to open that can be opened. And quite honestly, if you're willing to do that learning, and let's face it, do that work, it's a lot cheaper, right? I mean, approaching 30 years ago, when I left corporate America and started doing this kind of work in general, you wanted to build a platform, you go hire a big PR firm, and then they were going to charge me what I made a year, right? And so for
even
years,
throwing up a website, was 30 grand, right? So
I never spent that much, but at least not then. But
yeah.
But yes, and and I had a website in 1994, by 1994 wow. We had our first website, and I had my first blog. I don't remember when. I'd have to go back and think about that, but it's a long time. And so I used to say to people all the time, like, if you don't have a blog, why not start today, right? But now that list is not just a blog. Like, okay, I could give you a list of all the stuff we're doing, and it's a long darn list. And I know not everyone that's trying to build thought leadership is using all of those tools. And there's probably tools that, we're not using. We're not in Clubhouse. We're not in Discord, and those sorts of things. But there's an awful lot of places that we are, Peter. And
but stay with the places that you're not, because I find that this is an area that people stress out over, and it causes a lot of angst for thought leaders, right? So to me, just because there's something new doesn't mean you need to be the proverbial first kid on the block with it. I always look at it and say, wait a minute, time out. There's a strategy in place. There's a certain type of client or customer we're looking to attract. And based on their psychographic, demographics, data, et cetera, we can then make some semi-intelligent decisions as to where they are, right? Do you need to be on TikTok, Instagram, Clubhouse, whatever? And it has nothing to do with what your personal desires are, right? So for us, we're not on TikTok because, I'm on TikTok because I think it's mildly amusing when I have 5 minutes to totally waste between calls or something. But I've come to the, determination that this is not where my clients are hanging out looking for insights around how to support their thought leadership. So therefore,
so let's just stay there for a second. So as of about 3 weeks ago, as we record this, I have a TikTok account.
Okay.
And so let me just, I think it's very relevant to this conversation. Now, what I'm going to say doesn't mean it makes it right or that we've learned anything necessarily, but let me walk you through that. Like, I'm not going to be on TikTok. I'm not going to be on TikTok. I'm not even going to go to TikTok. That was where Kevin was, right? All of that. Then I started having clients say, man, we're using TikTok to share bursts of stuff to support the training we're doing. I'm like, really? That was the first thought. So my first thought was, there's no way my customers are there or our perfect customers are there. And then I'm like, well, they're a pretty perfect customer.
Okay, but I'm totally fine with that. I am happy to be wrong any day of the week, right?
Yeah, but let me go on with my thinking, because I still don't, okay, so I put 2 up this weekend. We're having this conversation on Valentine's Day, right? So we decided, okay, let's do 3 videos because I've written a bunch of stuff in the past about the connection between love and leadership and all that stuff. So let me do 3 and see if we can leverage Valentine's Day, right? So one went out on Saturday, one went out on Sunday, one went out today. Now I have no data about the one today. I have no idea what will happen with the other 2, but about 800 views of the other 2 over the weekend. Now, what does that mean? It didn't mean anything, really. But here's why we did this, or why we're trying it, I guess is what I should say, is that we're not just doing TikTok, we're doing short video. So most of these are getting used in Instagram as reels. They're getting posted natively, not all of them, but some of them are getting posted natively to LinkedIn and to Facebook in places where we're using Facebook inside of groups and stuff. And the other thing is we're repurposing other content, like from podcasts and stuff, in short bursts and putting it on TikTok. So we're going to try all this, and it doesn't all of it require more of Kevin's time, but it's a chance for us to curate some other content. So we're in experimental mode there, but we have chosen to not experiment every place. It just, and it was an easier,
but I love the fact that you can repurpose it. I love the mindset of the experimenter, because we do that all the time. So for example, maybe a year and a half ago, we experimented with Clubhouse. I'd never seen anything like Clubhouse in terms of how quickly everybody was on it. And to me, it feels like it's a bit of a sugar high where everyone's crashed, and what's left is a lot of, let's call it, opportunistic, multi-level. It's not my jam. For me, now, for others, no judgment. Like, to me, I'm agnostic. If anything will get us or our clients the outcome or the results that they're looking for, it's all about the experimenter mindset. So you're looking at this going, okay, well, you didn't take 80% of your marketing budget and throw it there. You're like, okay, little experiments, 5%, whatever. Try it for a couple months. Watch the data. I mean, you mentioned the 800 views. Now, we know the 800 views right now at this moment in time doesn't mean anything, but you can now track the 800 views plus a bunch of other data, and in 30, 45, 60 days say, wow, this is really interesting. The next question would be, it's interesting and it's good for the business, right? Or not. And if not, nobody died.
And I think exactly. But the other thing I think that goes with this, at least, is we talked about various modalities, Peter. And I think the key for us is to say, how do we leverage across? So that we've got, we're fortunate, we're blessed to have a lot of loyal fans, some of whom pay us and some of whom don't yet. But so what we'll do is, in my daily email, which comes out 5 days a week, not 7 days a week, not quite that crazy. But so like last Friday, even though we've been on TikTok now for a while, we posted that, hey, we're now doing, if you like short video, here's where you can watch it, here, and here, including TikTok. I'm always of the belief that if people view you as a thought leader, then if they want to have access to you in a different way, then give them that chance. So if I tell them that and they go there, great. And if they don't, who cares? But if it gives people another way to access us,
well, you have an obligation to do it.
They don't, to feel like, man, they're everywhere.
Yep. If you're enjoying this episode of Leveraging Thought Leadership, please make sure to subscribe. If you'd like to help spread the word about our podcast, please leave us a review and share it with your friends. We're available on Apple Podcast and on all major listening apps, as well as at thoughtleadershipleverage.com/podcasts. No, and I am in a violent agreement of that. And I think what happens for many is we have call it a content creator bias, whatever that means. I just made that up, right? It could be Kevin likes video. It could be Kevin likes to write. It could be Peter's visual, Mike's info, and whatever you like, you assume the rest of the world's like you because you're perfect. So why wouldn't you, right? And, I'm someone that still reads 2 business books a week. That's abnormal, right? That is not the market.
That is abnormal, Peter. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the quote. Let's pull that quote. Abnormal Peter, said Kevin. But no, what I'm self-aware enough to realize, okay, I can't extrapolate from my individual quirks, behaviors, whatever, what the market is. Because if I did that, I would guesstimate the book sale universe at probably 100 times what it is today. So I think you have to be aware, where am I normal? Where am I not normal? It doesn't matter what you do unless you are your client profile. Like I would argue, Kevin, you or I may or may not be our own client avatars.
Oh, almost assuredly not. We talk about on our team all the time. Like we got to remember, we're not our customer.
And I think that's the big, I love the way you frame that, because it's so easy to assume that we are, because we want to help people. We want to get the work out there. We want to do it. We're so passionate about what we do. And you have to say, I always say there's a difference also between the user and the buyer, right? So, not every person that goes through, an Eikenberry program is a raving fan. Some have been voluntold to do that. And you have to understand 100%. The difference between people opting in, someone buying a book with their own money, they voted with their dollars. Someone at an organization that was told, hey, Peter, Tuesday at 2:00, you got to do this thing, different behavior by, mindset.
Well, and, we do a free webinar. We did one a couple weeks ago, and, we're going to have fans that show up. We have fans that have checkbooks and credit cards and PO numbers, and we have fans that don't. And we're happy to have both. Our job on the sales side is to figure out who's who, right? But we want to build that. Thought leadership isn't about only those people that have a credit card.
But I think that's critical. So I would venture to say that your marketing people are wise enough to realize when you have a hypothesis and you want to survey, you don't survey all of the webinar participants because you kind of don't care. Well, you do care, but you don't from a marketing spend perspective. Those folks that come in that don't buy, listen, if they want to, consume your information and attend a free webinar, God bless, that's great, right? But those that have the checkbooks or the credit cards, you need to, they're far more important to you as a viable, healthy business.
Even better if they have a P number. But the point is that what we try to do with those fans, raving fans, if you will, that aren't a decision maker, is when they engage with us a lot, is to how can they help us get to a decision maker, right? So on the sales side, we're still trying. We value them because our mission is to help as many leaders as we can make as big a positive difference in the world as we can.
Right.
Like that's what we're here to do. And so that doesn't mean that if you don't have a checkbook, we don't want to talk to you. But what we know is we have to not only meet that purpose, but create profit, right? We need to not only have missional success, but commercial success. That's how I like to talk about it. We have to think about both. And so back to our TikTok example, because that's sort of where we started, where does that fit in? Who knows? It probably already is fitting into the missional part. The real question is it important enough to the commercial part to stay, because we have so many choices?
Well, and that's right. Well, you have choices. So the rub is you have, in essence, unlimited choices, but like everybody else, you have limited resources, time, energy, effort, money, right? So you can't afford to spend 90% of the organization's resources serving the missionary folks, right? The mission-driven folks, because you'd be bankrupt quickly. Maybe the right number for you is 5%, maybe it's 20%, whatever it is, right? That's an ongoing experiment. And you also get not just intrinsic benefit and value from that, but good things also come from someone today that's a non-buyer. There's a lot of thought leaders that have done really well by planting the seeds and consistently supporting the communities that can't support them now, because then they move on. They one of the beauties of, being at a game for a long time, being in the business a long time is, hey, now it's 10 years later and I do have a budget. I like Eikenberry's work. And
I've been following you forever, Kevin. And now I'm finally in a place where some of the best words, right? I've been following you forever, Kevin. And now I'm at a place where I can hire you. Like, hoorah.
So that to me is such a critical thought, because we get that all the time and we support our clients to get those thoughts all the time, where if you can push out in a cost-effective, scalable way, high quality thought leadership that's representative of what you do to certain avatars, be they buyers today or not, that will absolutely 1000% happen. Do we know if it'll happen in a week? No, but it will absolutely happen. And when they do come to you with those beautiful words of, Kevin, I've been following you a long time. I don't know what your numbers are, but in our experience, it's over 90% that they're in a buy mode, and they've already eliminated all the competition.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's such a raving. They're quoting you back to you.
Here's the thing. To me, I mean, outside of the fact that I'm hoping and trying and strive to be a thought leader from the perspective of how it can make a difference, right, for other people, missional, if you want to look at purpose, look at it that way. Outside of that, the way I look at it is this: like, there are a lot of people that help people be better leaders. We'll just say it that way, right? Lots of people. You've had other people on your show that do that. People that I follow, know, respect, and all that stuff. The point is, we don't want people to come to us saying we're looking for leadership development help. We want people coming to say, we want Kevin, because then there's no competition. And then there's also less price pressure.
Right. No, and that's such an amazing thought, because I've been following you forever is the holy grail. The flip side of that coin is you've been invited to participate in an RFP. Oh God, right? Like, where, you have no idea what their motivations are. They just fishing for information. It's going to be a huge cost of time, energy, effort, etc. So I think, if you want to stay away from the RFP camp, which I would argue that one should most of the time in most circumstances, and move to the I've been following you forever category, that's being a long-term investor in yourself and in your business and in the communities that matter to you. So
I don't know how else to think about thought leadership than other than the long game. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's how I think about it.
Yeah, no, I'm tired of violently agreeing with you, Kevin. We have to find something we don't like. Maybe how do you feel about kale? Are you a kale guy or no?
No.
Yeah. Okay, I like kale. So all right, then we can argue about that later. That'll be episode 2. But I think that long game is important because, when you look at the mindset, the marketing, et cetera, in the B2C world, which is not where I play or my clients play, it's a short-term mentality. They think I have to send out this campaign and do the SEO, and I'm going to send out 1 billion emails and X many will convert and and take out your credit card now. That sort of pressure, psychology, strategy, and tactics, I find them a little gross, for lack of a better word, but more importantly, or as importantly, they just don't work for real thought leaders. It is not the way to win the game.
Well, I mean, I'm of the opinion that 1 is the most dangerous number in business, right? And so we had this conversation about what platform are you on and what are you doing? And so, that's why I said, well, do I want to do TikTok? Well, only if I can leverage that to 4 other places. So 1 is a dangerous number. So we do send what I would call marketing emails and sometimes what you would probably call a sales email. And I'd like to think they're not gross, but I guess what I'm saying is that we believe that we want to become, and we're working hard every day to become thought leaders. And we're trying to sell stuff to not only to the people that have known us forever, but from the people that have started to know who we are. We've piqued their interest, and now it's time, right? No, and I'm not saying that we're disagreeing, but I think there's a I don't want to do this or I want to do that. Again, it goes back to who's the customer, right? And sometimes we have to figure out how to get their attention right now because now they're buying. Everybody's got a car. Well, my daughter doesn't because she's moving to downtown Minneapolis, but
right. But there's a nuance there that's important, Kevin, in that your mindset is the long game, which is the correct mindset, my humble opinion. However, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have campaigns going out that have a short-term objective. And I totally agree there's a time and place for that. And there's there's a bunch of research done, give 10 times, ask once. I mean, there's a lot of work that you could study and research that. What I'm talking about is sort of this B2C mentality where they're constantly hammering you with buy. And it is so disgustingly transactional that you wouldn't want to have a long-term relationship with those folks because the struggle for thought leaders is we always theoretically have the supply. We don't know when the demand comes on the client side. That's beyond 100%. Our control. So our job is to be aware, is to keep that level of awareness high and the engagement high so that when and if a subset come into buy mode, they're calling you up and going, Kevin, I've been following you forever and I really dig your stuff. And now I've got this team of 100.
Right. Or the time hasn't been right. Now the time is right, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
right?
whatever it is. Yeah. Well, this has been great, Kevin. I really, number one, have appreciated your work from afar for a long, long time. So it's always fun to talk to someone that feels this is the same theory, sort of feels like an old friend because I read all your stuff and sort of have a sense of what I'm coming into. Right.
Exactly.
And, with regard to today, it was fun to violently agree with you, except for the kale issue. And I can let that go.
Well, I'm sure we could probably find something else we don't agree on. But I think that for the stuff that we're talking about today, I'm happy to find that I'm talking to an expert here and he's saying, hey, you got some of this right, Kevin. And so this was really useful for me and valuable for me and fun for me. So thanks for having me on. We had this conversation before that you have a number of your past guests are people that I know and or sometimes or respect because I don't know them. Right. And so it's an honor to have been on. And so thanks.
Pleasure to have you. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Kevin.
To learn more about Thought Leadership Leverage, please visit our website at thoughtleadershipleverage.com. To reach me directly, feel free to email me at peter@thoughtleadershipleverage.com. And please subscribe to Leveraging Thought Leadership on iTunes or your favorite podcast app to get your weekly episode automatically.